Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. Today I'm doing the assembly tutorial for the Photo Carousel gift box. For my tutorial today I'm not using the cutting die set. I am however using the cutting file that is available for digital cutters. The cutting file has been designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube, and I shall link her YouTube channel in the description box below. You can get the cutting file from Nicole's Etsy store, and I will link that also in the description box below. You can also get the die set for this gift box, and it is available in Andy's store, also known as RLJLIVES. Here are all the pieces for the carousel, and it's a lot of pieces. It uses up about 10 12 by 12 sheets of cardstock. This pile here on the right are the base pieces for the bottom of the carousel. I'll just put those to the side, we'll work on that later. Then we have this pile on the right here, which is the main box, and then this is the lid here. So I'll put the lid pieces aside and we'll work and talk about the main pieces. These pieces here create frames, and there are 6 of them, and they go around the carousel side walls, and you put photos behind these ones. So I've gone ahead there and I've put the double-sided tape on the glue tabs of those, and we'll set these pieces aside for now. So we're going to be working on the base and the sides of the carousel, and we've got these 2 hexagons here, and one of them is smaller than the other, which is a liner piece, and we'll put that to the side, the smaller piece, and work on the larger base piece. These pieces here create the walls of the box, and there are 6 of them. I've also gone ahead and put the double-sided tape on the glue tabs, as you can see, and also on the back of the part of the tab that does not have glue tabs. I've gone ahead and put double-sided tape on all of the backs of those. So let's start putting this together. So I'm going to remove the release paper from the glue tab on the bottom of that piece and join it to the hexagon, taking care to line it up correctly and then pressing it into place. Again, make sure you take your time when you're putting these pieces together so that your carousel goes together nicely. For my project today, I'm mainly using double-sided tape, and it's the Sukwang tape. Occasionally you'll see me use some glue, and the glue I'm using today is the Gina K Connect glue. It just happens to be glue that I have on hand at the moment and open. There are a lot of good glues, and I like using a mixture of different types. I have art glitter glue, I have the Gina K, I also have the Nouveau Deluxe, and I like to just swap and change them around. So that's those pieces attached to the hexagon, and now it's time to join them together. So we'll take that release paper off that tape there, and it's very easy to just join the sides together here as I'm showing. It's not a particularly hard project to put together, but there are a lot of pieces. Just working your way around the box, taking the release papers off the adhesive and joining the sides together. Taking care to make sure you're lining it up straight. You can see it must have gone a bit crooked there, and I've pulled it up and pressed it back down into place. And I'm just going in behind there to make sure it got a good stick. So I'm just closing up that last side there, and what I'll do now is I'll go inside with my bone folder and reinforce where those glue tabs are to make sure it's getting a good stick. Just moving those top big tabs out of the way. And now we'll take the release papers off the double-sided tape that's on the back of those larger tabs, and we'll fold them in. And we'll do that all the way around. Now what this does, it obviously gives the box some extra strength by having those sides reinforced. So you can fast forward me here, taking all these release papers off. I have got it sped up, but I didn't want to leave anything out. particularly in this main part of the assembly tutorial. So I'm just removing the last pieces here of the release papers and folding that tab in. And I'm going to go in with my bone folder and make sure that's all burnished really well so that those bigger tabs have attached to the side walls. And that they're getting a good stick. Next, we're going to take the smaller hexagon, that liner piece that we put aside earlier, and we're going to use some glue here, the Gina K Connect as I mentioned before. Put glue on the back of it and then put it into place at the bottom of that box. And this is the liner piece. It covers up the glue tabs, gives the base a bit more strength and stability, and makes the inside of the box look nice and neat. And that's the base of that box done. So moving on to these frame pieces, I'm going to show you how to put one of these together. And you'll see I've put the double-sided adhesive along the side pieces where the glue tabs are. And what we're going to be doing is making sure that piece with the adhesive ends up against that inside edge of that frame. So it curves around like that and gets adhered like this. So we'll do that for real. I'll take the release paper off, and then you fold it around and it gets pressed against the edge, the inside edge of that frame. And you can push that down flat so that it gets a good stick. Then you can push it back the other way and flatten it and then stand it back up again, and that's how it will look. And that's the short end of the rectangle. It's a good idea to start with that end first. So this is again, expose the adhesive, fold it around and press it against the inside edge of that frame. So that's the short ends done, and now it's time to do the longer ends. Now these longer ends, when you fold them around, you will see that they have a mitered edge, and that's why we don't do these first. We do the short ends first. So I'll take the release paper off, and it's a little bit trickier, so you have to finagle it a little bit. You fold it around and that gets pushed against that inside edge of the frame. So just take your time, it will go into place nicely. And then you'll see you've got mitered edges. Let's do the other side. Take the release papers off and fold it around and press it into place. And there we have our frame piece there. Now what we'll be doing is putting some double-sided adhesive along that edge where the seams are exposed, because that's the edge that's going to be glued against the walls of the carousel. So you can just see me here, I'm putting the double-sided tape into place. And also what this is doing when you're applying the double-sided tape, it's making sure that this frame is stuck together well with those mitered edges. And it just pulls it all into being nice and straight and even. So that's the double-sided adhesive stuck onto there, and that will get stuck onto the wall of the carousel like that. And you'll go ahead and you'll make your other 5 frame pieces, which is what I've gone ahead and done here. I've got my 6 frames ready to go onto the side of the carousel box, and it will fit onto there perfectly. So I'll remove the release paper from the adhesive on these frames and stick them into place on the sides of the walls of that box, or the carousel, which is what it will be when it's done. Make sure you take care to line it up correctly. You can see I must have been a bit off there, so I've taken it off and I'm retrying. You want these to go into place nicely so that the straws, which will be the poles for the horses, will fit nicely in between the frames. So I'm just doing the second one here, lining it up against the first one and pressing it into place. And I'll do that all the way around the box. I'll talk about the poles for the horses a little bit later on in the tutorial. But we'll get the box and the lid made first. So I went ahead and put all my frames on the sides of the box, which is the walls of the carousel, making sure that they're all stuck down nicely. And we'll put this aside now and we'll work on the lid. These are the pieces for the lid. We have these 6 rectangles here. We have this funny looking circle piece that looks like it's got a piece taken out of it. And also this funny jaggedy looking piece. And then there's these 6 pieces which make up the roof of the carousel. And then we have these pieces here. Now, these pieces here create a strengthening box that goes inside the roof, and it is very similar to the base piece of the carousel. It has 2 hexagons. One is a little bit smaller than the other, which is a liner piece, and we'll put that aside for now and we'll work with the larger hexagon. And these pieces here get attached to that hexagon. You can see that I went ahead and put the adhesive tape onto the glue tabs, and that's what I'm attaching to the hexagon, is the larger glue tab along the bottom of that piece. This smaller box goes together exactly the same way as the larger box we made earlier for the base of the carousel. So I'm just taking my time here, making sure that these pieces are lining up and pressing them into place. So I'll just put those other pieces out of the way so I've got some more room. And we're going to start taking the adhesive papers off the backs of those tabs that will join the side pieces together. And this goes together quite quickly, as you can see. Make sure you're lining it up correctly. As you can see, I had to pull that one apart and stick it back down. And as before, we're going to remove the release papers from the tops of those larger tabs and fold them in. Giving this box a little bit of strength around the sides. Once we've got all those tabs folded down and into place, give it a nice burnish with the bone folder to make sure the adhesive gets a good stick. And then we're going to put that smaller hexagon inside because it's our liner piece. And again, I'm going to glue it into place. And as before, what this does is it hides the glue tabs on the inside, gives the base of that box some stability, and it makes it look nice from the inside. We just need to add one more thing to this box now that it's finished. We need those 6 smaller rectangle pieces that I showed earlier, and that has a score line down the centre, and it has double-sided tape on each side of that score line. So I'm just going to remove one side's double-sided release papers, and I'm going to, with it on my work surface, I'm going to press the adhesive against the side of the box because we want it to be level with the side and also flush with the bottom of the box. But don't take the other release paper off the other side just yet. So again, take the release paper off one of the sides and press it into place against the centre of the edge of the box there. So we'll do that to all of the 6 little rectangles on all 6 sides. And you'll see why we do this a little bit later. It helps us put this box into position under the roof. So that's how it should look. And we've still got adhesive unexposed on the bottom. So now we're moving on to these 6 pieces here, and these pieces make the roof. So I'm going to remove the release paper from the glue tabs. Take the next piece and line it up against those glue tabs. The bottom score line there is a fold, and you will need to fold the smaller bottom tab around and into that folded piece, if that makes sense. So I'm just doing that all the way around. And it's funny here, I'm taking the release paper off and I've realised, oh, I didn't do it to the other side piece to join it on. I was being too much of a hurry, I think. So you'll go ahead and you'll put those pieces together, taking care to line them up, of course, and that bottom one bends with the fold onto the next piece. And then we join it up. And that's our part of our roof of our carousel. And just join that bottom tab into place. There we go. So that's our roof. We just need to do the top of it. And that's this funny round piece here with the piece cut out. So we'll take the release paper off that tab and join that around, and it makes like a cone shape. Like so. Then we get this jaggedy piece here. And first up, we're going to make sure that the bigger tabs are the top. So I'm going to join this together first, and I'll talk more about the bigger tabs in a sec. So we'll take the release papers off that end tab and join that together. And this is where I'm double checking to make sure, yes, that's the top that the cone gets attached to. You wouldn't attach it to these smaller tabs because they don't fit. So it's the bigger tabs. So I'm going to take the release papers off the smaller tabs, and we're going to put that onto the roof. So I'm just working through here, getting all these release papers off, the glue tabs. And then what we'll do is these will go through that center hole. And don't do what I did here and left it sitting there and then it fell out. So put it back in, and then with my finger on the other side of my left hand there, I've grabbed hold of one of the tabs underneath. And then I've gone to the opposite side and pushed into place one of those tabs on that opposite side, and then I'll go around and glue all the tabs, or press all the tabs down. And that makes sure that it gets nice and straight and even. I'm just pressing against quite firmly to make sure that it gets a good hold. And then we're going to stick that cone piece onto the top. So I'll push those pieces in, and I'm going to take the release papers off the tabs. I know it's painful watching this. You can fast forward this if you like. And then we're going to position that cone piece on the top. Now to start with, I was going to do it one tab at a time because I thought that that would be easier, but it turned out a little bit more trickier, just because access underneath it's not as big an area to get your hand inside. So in the end, I just pushed the tabs in and lined it up from the outside. And then once it was mostly lined up, then I went in with my hand underneath and pushing from that center hole underneath. Now it's probably only 1 or 2 fingers I've been able to get up through that center piece. I'm just pushing against my other hand, making sure that that gets a good stick. You can see your access is a little bit limited, but you can still get in there. So I've just gone in there with my bone folder to just put a little bit more pressure against those tabs and my hand on the other side to make sure that glue gets a good stick. Now it's time to put the other box we just made into the roof. And that's how it's going to go in there. And that's what those tabs are for on the sides of that box we just previously made. So I'm going to take the release papers off those tabs, and you can put the top of your carousel into a glass or something like that to hold it for you if you like. I'm just holding it in my hand, so I'm just eyeballing it here, just making sure that the sides of the hexagon on both the roof and that inner box are lined up and that there's an even gap all the way around, and just pressing those side tabs into place, making sure it's getting a good hold. Even getting my bone folder here, and I'm going to press it against those tabs on the inner pieces. Make sure it's getting a good hold. Now there's also one more piece, or two here, that go onto the roof of the carousel. I'm going to join them together, and I'm just going to use glue here. A small amount of glue on that tab, join that piece to it, and this is a piece that goes around the outside edge. Make it a little bit more decorative. So it goes along there. So what I decided to do is I decided to put some double-sided tape around that edge of the top of the carousel. I've shown that here. I just did it in one continuous piece. I'm just taking the backing off, and I'm going to attach this decorative piece to it. Just taking my time, making sure it's lined up against the bottom edge and that it meets each corner piece to that corner fold. Taking care to line it up properly. Until you get all the way around to the other end. And I've stuck it down too far, so that's okay. Just peel it up a little bit. Put that end piece into place, and then we'll put some glue on the tab to join it up. And already that makes a nice addition to the top of the carousel, the lid, the roof, whatever you like to call it. I think we'll call it the roof. So that's the roof done of the carousel. We'll put that aside, and now it's time to start working on the two round platforms that are the base of the carousel. So if you have purchased the die set, if you have a smaller cutting machine where you don't have these circles included, I'm going to go through and give you the sizing for the top level and the bottom level of the platforms for the carousel. So for the top level, you will need two circles that are 6 inches in diameter, and that is the top and the bottom piece of the top level. You'll also need two that are 5 7/8 of an inch in diameter, and they are the inner liner pieces for the top and the bottom of the top level of the carousel. So I'm just writing in there that smaller size, they will be liner pieces. And they cover the glue tabs on the inside, and I'll go through that when I show you how to make it with the cutting file pieces. So that was the top level. This is the bottom level of the carousel, the platform. So I'm just showing you that. So this is the bottom level. You will need two circles, 6 3/8 of an inch in diameter. That is the top and the bottom of the bottom level, and you'll need two pieces that are 6 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and they are the liner pieces that go inside that hide the glue tabs. So you can cut this any way you like. You can use a circle cutter if you can cut circles that big with it, or you can do old school with a compass and a pencil and then cut it out by hand, or you might even have a plate in your cupboard that is the right size, and you could trace that and then cut that out with scissors. So I hope that's clear. So going back to my cutting file pieces here, and I've already assembled my top layer, and we'll do the bottom layer together. So that goes underneath the carousel box like that. So I have my circles here. There are two larger ones and two smaller ones, and I'm going to work with one of the larger ones first. The smaller ones, as I said before, are liner pieces. So I've just got one of the larger base pieces here. These 4 pieces, I'll talk about those later. And I've got one of these longer strips that has the jagged edges, or the tabs. I shouldn't call them jagged edges, they're tabs, glue tabs. So I'm just taking the release papers off the glue tabs. I'm also going to, you'll see me do it in a minute, make this piece a bit more curvier in my hands so that it'll fit around this circle a bit better. This is where I realise I need to do that, and it's going to help cooperate with me a little bit more. So I'm going to press each of these tabs into place around the circle. Just take your time making sure that you're lining it up correctly. I have sped this up, but if you want to fast forward it, you can do that. So once you get to the end of this first piece, You can then put it down onto your work surface and press those tabs into place better from against your work surface, and I'm using my bone folder here to do that. Then I'm going to pick up the next one and I'm going to curve that before I get it into place. Take the glue adhesive backing tabs off the glue tabs. And again, you can fast forward this bit if you like. I'm going to take the backings off the tab that's here and join this next one on and get the first glue tabs into place. Making these round platforms for this carousel do take the longest time. But once they're done, they're done. So I'm just pressing those into place, and when I get to the end, I'm going to take that adhesive backing off that tab and put it around behind the beginning of our sides. Now I'll press it into place, and that's our top of our bottom layer done, or the bottom of the bottom layer. It doesn't matter, they're both the same. So now it's time to get one of the smaller circles, which is the liner piece, and you'll see that my circle there had a bit chopped off it. Doesn't matter, it's only a liner piece. So we'll glue that into place, and that will hide the tabs on the inside. Not that you're going to see this anyway, but it also gives that piece some extra stability too. Now onto these 4 pieces here, we're going to fold along the score lines on the sides so the piece looks like that, and you'll do that to all 4 of them. These pieces here join together to make an X and becomes a support piece inside those circles. So I'm just showing you that we're going to bend it on an angle like that. So this is what it will look like when they're folded, and then they bend. We're going to have them as corner pieces like that. Then we'll join them together. I hope this is clear. So we'll join them together like that so that we get a X, and this is going to be a support bracket. So I'm just going to show you that I'm going to glue them together with those center pieces so that we've got glue tabs on the top and on the bottom. Just pressing that glue into place. It's the thing with glue, it takes longer to dry. Then we're going to go around and glue the other one into place. And so you can see there we've got top and bottom glue tabs in effect. Then we'll stick this last one into place. Just put glue along that center piece and put it into place. You can use double-sided tape here. I just grabbed the glue, it was quicker. And then glue that final one together. Just making sure the glue is dry. So you can see we've got the glue tabs on the top there, and we'll go ahead and we can put glue in these places where I'm indicating here. You put glue or double-sided tape, whatever you like. It's there, all the way around, and you'll do that on the bottom as well, because those are glue tabs too. And it makes an X, and that's a support piece for inside the circle. So we've got our circle base here and also the X, and it has double-sided tape already there. And we're going to remove the release papers from the tape. And we're going to put it into position inside that circle base that we've just made. And do our best just to line it up as best you can to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can just eyeball it like I have and stick those glue tabs down. So then we'll put that to the side and we'll start working on the top. So we've got 2 circles again. Take the larger one, put the smaller one to the side because that's a liner piece. Get one of these strips with the glue tabs, take the release papers off the tabs, and we're going to put these into place exactly the same way as we did for that other piece. And because we did the other piece first, we can call that the base, and then this is the top of the bottom layer. So again, we're going to put this into position around that curved edge, little by little. I did speed this one up a bit more so it'll go a bit quicker. Press it down into place, burnish it, get the other strip, get it curvy, take the release papers off. Again, you can fast forward this more if you'd like. We're going to join it to our other piece. Take the release paper off that tab, join that one in together, get that first couple of tabs in place, and then continue on. And I apologise for the aircraft noise you can hear. I think we've got a emergency services helicopter flying around at the moment. So we're going to join this tab to the back of the beginning of that piece, put it down onto the work surface and burnish it. Then we'll get that smaller circle, which is a liner piece, and we'll stick that down inside. And then again, this gives that piece a little bit more stability and strength. Then we'll bring in our other circle here with that support piece inside it. We're going to remove the release papers from those top glue tabs. And we're going to put that piece we just made directly over the top. And it should fit down nicely inside the circle that you just made, or over the top, whatever is a better fit. So that's my bottom layer of the carousel done, and you'll go ahead and you'll make your top layer exactly the same way. So I've got my two layers here, top and bottom, and when you bring in the base piece of the carousel, or the box piece, it goes on there like that, and then the top, the roof goes on, although it won't sit on properly until we get those straws into place. But that's how it will look. It's hard to get a good view. And speaking of the straws, this is where we're up to this part now. So you'll need 3 of the paper drinking straws, and you'll cut them in half so that you have 6. And we'll get the base piece, that box piece, and I'm going to use hot glue and glue the straws into those spots that are between each of the frames. The straws fit nicely in there. So I've gone ahead and done that, and you can put the lid on, but you'll find that it might not fit properly. So if that's the case, you'll need to trim the top of your straws on an angle so you get a bit of a point. And what that does is that helps the lid fit on nicely, or the roof fit on nicely, and you get a little small gap, but that's supposed to be there. So on to decorating. Now in the cutting file set you will get all these decorator layers, but in the cutting die set you'll get the horses, but you probably won't get the other decorator layers. So I'm going to speed up my decorating of my carousel now and talk to you a little bit more about making your own decorator layers. So what you can do to make your own decorator layers, you can cut the die pieces out again and trim them down by 1/8 of an inch if you like on all the pieces that require decorator panels. That's one way to do it. You could also cut out the pieces directly from designer series paper for the ones that you'd like to be decorative, like the roof panels and things like that, and the frames, they can be cut directly from the designer series paper, and that will give you the same look. So I'm just putting down my decorator panels onto those top and bottom platforms. So the circle layers you could make the same way as I mentioned earlier, with a compass and a pencil, or you might even have a plate in your cupboard that would be the right diameter, and you could cut it out with scissors. These decorative strips along the bottom, or around the edge, sorry, they could be just cut they're just long rectangles, so they're quite easy to cut. This one's a little bit more trickier. It's a wavy decorator panel. But if you had those decorative scissors, you could easily make something similar. So I'm just sticking those into place. And I'm using a silver mirror board. That's my contrasting colour for my carousel. And the pink gingham paper that I'm using here is from Echo Park, I believe. So it's quite the project, this carousel. It does take a little bit of time to get all the pieces cut out, and then of course putting it all together. So now I'm going to glue my top layer to my bottom layer of the base of the carousel, and I'm using a fair amount of glue here, and just going to line it up, make sure it's central onto the bottom layer and press it down into place. Then I'm going to put it aside to dry. So moving on to the roof of the carousel, I'm going to do the decorative layers for that. I've got silver mirror board and this pretty flower paper. Went ahead and did all those 6 pieces, let them dry. They'll go here. Let them dry, and now I've got the roof panels, which is also that pretty pink gingham paper. Just going to put those into place around the roof of the carousel. Once we've got all those into place, there are some other decorative pieces that go over those edges, and that's what these little silver pieces are, and they cover up those joins nicely. Now, one thing to note with these little decorative pieces, there's a top and a bottom. The top has that notch cut out of the top, and the bottom is rounded, and that notch lines up with that top piece there. So when you glue them down, you need to keep that in mind. So I'm going to glue all those into place, and they cover up that seam nicely. And again, I've used the silver mirror board for those pieces as a nice contrasting colour. So just sticking them all into place. And then I'm going to put those pieces that are on my right side there into place on those front panels there. So this is another thing where you need to take your time to make sure things are lined up properly, because you want the decorator panels to look nice. So we'll get all those into place, and our roof of our carousel is coming together and looking nice. So for the top piece of that roof, which is called a finial, the decorator layers for that, I actually cut that out of a couple of different colours because I couldn't decide what I wanted. And in the end, I've decided on just the pink and the silver mirror board, and I alternated it around the top. And I used silver mirror board because carousels to me have mirrors, and that's to give that mirror effect, of course. And I'm really happy with the way that that turned out on mine. And for the bottom pieces, I alternated them. So where there was a mirror top, there was a plain pink bottom. And where there was a pink top, there was a silver bottom. And I'm liking the way that that turned out. So that's our roof of our carousel decorated, and we'll move on to the next piece of decorating. Okay, so moving on to the base piece of the carousel, the part where the frames are. Nicole originally designed this to be a photo frame gift box, and photos would go in those frames. And this piece that I'm folding, you would normally cut this from white so that you could glue your photo to it, and it would slot in here without needing to be glued, so that you can change out your photos, and it sits in there perfectly and doesn't fall out. And it's very easy to get out, although I can't do it with my fingernails, so I'll get my pokey tool, and you could change out your photos as easy as that without destroying your photo box. So I've decided to take my carousel in a little bit of a different direction, and I'm not going to be putting photos in mine. So I've put this pretty floral paper as the background. And now I'm going to put my frames into place, which I've cut from pink cardstock, and this pink cardstock is called Tutu from Kaisercraft. And I'm going to stick those onto that part of the frame. That's the decorative layer. Moving on to the horses, there's two pieces to the horse. There's the bottom layer, which I've cut from silver mirror board, and then there's the top layer. The silver mirror board gives the horse its mane and its tail as a different colour. So I'm going to glue the top pieces of the horses onto their bottom layering pieces. So it would look like so. And the base cardstock that I've used for the horses and also the main part of the carousel is called Marble from Kaisercraft. So you can see there I've attached my horses to the straws as the poles, and I've got my horses rearing up on the poles. For something different and another direction, I'm going to put poles in the middle of the frames, and I'm going to put another horse. So my carousel is going to be full of horses, which is just something different I wanted to do with this box, and it was the vision that I had when I first saw the box when Nicole showed it. But you could do anything. You could have it as a photo box, or you can do it as I have with extra horses, or if you've come up with something else, by all means, let your imagination go wild. So here is my completed carousel, and I'm absolutely loving it. I've put some bows on the top there of the roof, and I've also put flowers. I quite enjoy decorating with flowers. It always makes things look nice, in my opinion. And you could put whatever you liked inside the gift box there. And the way I've done mine, it could so very easily be for someone that had a baby girl, just by the way I've decorated it. I haven't made this for anybody in particular. It will go in my craft room in pride of place, as I'm loving the way this turned out. So I'm just taking away some of the glue strings from the hot glue. So a little bit of a close-up there for you. I did just glue those straws into those frames just with hot glue. So that's my tutorial finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired to make one of these carousels. I love the way that mine turned out. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the links that I mentioned earlier. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, it's bye for now.